fixed.
They look like headphones.
It was the lug nut.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. Wait, check 2.
If headphones are headphoning, that's good enough. Welcome, episode 24 to the podcast. Matt, how are you doing this afternoon?
Hanging in there.
Nice.
Chilling.
Started to realize I have to pick my socks very carefully because anything we put on video here.
I picked some Reptar socks for that very reason.
Got the same idea. Mind meld.
Jeez.
Did you bring your 1 page of notes that we're going to go over for this session?
Nope. I thought about it all day. I was like, when am I going to do this? No, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do it. Like, why start now?
That was a test. That was a confidence test on how we're doing with the podcast.
I have to be confident in our abilities off the bat. So where's your list? Because
this time I just wrote it on my left palm.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it'd be easier.
Some crib notes?
Yeah. I took a look at where the camera was shooting from that side, where the iPhone's shooting from that side. And then I saw what I can kind of cup here, keep away from you.
I sweat so much doing this podcast, so it's just a sweaty hand of it's gone. It's just all just wiped away. Like I'll just, and it's just ink on my head.
I do too, yeah. Yesterday we did our first music and then podcast. And for the podcast part, I was trying not to just stay drenched on camera.
Because you were after working out. I mean, you work out.
Luckily, I forgot to turn my personal camera on yesterday, though, so you can only see me from afar. So, it's all right.
Off in the distance.
Look dry and happy. But how have you been doing? I'm assuming you're keeping dry.
Trying.
Emotionally?
Emotionally dry. No tears in these eyes.
Physically?
Currently. Yeah. No. Yeah. We're good. It's. I feel like this last week, we actually went grocery shopping on Monday together.
Returning to normal a little bit?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, it was more like a friend of ours has been shopping for us lately, and she goes like weekly, but we can't we don't want to inundate her with a family of forced food, so it's kind of piecemeal. So we decided.
Plus, you need the embarrassing stuff: bleach, syringes, shit. You don't really want to ask someone else.
Right. Petroleum jelly. So it was just nice. Like me and Randy went. We each took half of the stores, 3 stores, tackled them very quickly, and then
Wait. You say you went together, but you did different stores at the same time?
No, we went to 3 different stores. We went to we got our meat from Whole Foods. Went to Costco to get some toilet paper and the big things, and then we went to Americana to get everything else. Right. So we split the list so we wouldn't be into each place very long. So I took one half of the store and got the frozen
smart
stuff and the vegetables, and then frozen vegetables, whatever. And then Randy got the vegetables, the bread, that. So we kind of divide and conquer. So we wouldn't have to be there very long, because if she went by herself, it'd be hours.
You know what might be a fun video project is to video different ways to shop during the pandemic.
Oh.
Showing how now you have to snake through the aisles in some places. Talking about the timing efficiency.
I was doing real bad with that.
If you go to every other aisle, do every other snaking, and then do intermittent non-snaking in the aisles that you need to attend. Put this on video, cross-reference it.
That would be pretty impressive. But
it would be like supermarket sweep at the end. That old show
that's
where people
what we said it was.
running
We're doing
to their granola
sweep. Yeah, because we just want to go as fast as possible. I think that if you had showing people that the proper, quick.
There's probably a Goldilocks zone though. I would imagine there's an unintended consequence of extra speed, meaning velocity being pushed through the air, meaning virus particles that you're spraying on people in the grocery store. So that it might be that
they draft
35 miles an hour is the optimal speed for supermarket sweeps in the Corona age specifically.
Oh my gosh! Right, go slower so you don't attract the molecules in your wake.
Actually, this one quote I heard I love by this guy Tim Ferriss. I think it might have been someone else, of course, like anything, but he said, "Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast." And I find myself a lot of times in life trying to do something so fast I make a mistake. Then you do it twice. Another productivity hack I've heard is productive people never touch things twice. They never set something down and be like, I'll do this later. If they're picking something up, if they're already engaged, they just take care of it. Right.
I try to do that in my with garbage. I don't you have a thing. You're just you put it down for later. I'll throw it. No, just throw it out now.
Slowly, smoothly throw this trash out.
I like that. Hey, it's like measure once, cut twice, or measure twice, cut once.
Kinda. Sure. The hare wins the race, or the rabbit doesn't win the race. I don't know. Probably not going to be the most compelling footage. Supermarket sweep already did it in the 80s, so I probably should move on to something else. Shouldn't just do the grocery. It's probably going to change before long, and there won't be the snaking forever. People probably hate that, right?
We'll just get a drone and have a drone in the store follow, you know what I mean? And that would be the way, because then you could do big angles above it, you know. We'd have to get the store's permission, of course.
You know, I was recently scrubbing through some of our old podcasts, and I hadn't done that a lot. I've like, gone through and changed some descriptions and names and whatnot, but I finally had the opportunity to listen to some of the pieces we'd recorded. And I was laughing, thinking about when we were doing like the drone impressions, like how loud it would be if we were trying to film this like 15 feet off the ground.
Right.
Yeah, and try to make it seem like that was one of our normal camera angles, like the wind blowing in our face.
No problem, right?
From the small bird's eye we got right here.
This is it, though. We're almost there, right? We're outside.
It's pretty close.
We've migrated outside, right? Now, you know, just imagine just hovering up there, a little distance away, right?
I think we're about there. Yeah, I'm gonna get DJI Mavic up in the sky.
And then it just comes, swoops in, does an override, and that's welcome to Never Ending Becoming, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'll probably be hanging a condenser microphone off the bottom of it. You know, try to make sure we catch any ambient laughter from the neighborhood. You know,
what the hell's that? Somebody shoots it down.
It's totally possible. It's totally possible. You know, I realize I have to cover my garage because like neighbors are trying to like hang out in the alley right behind where I was shooting yesterday.
Uh-oh.
And like I don't really care in general if they're behind, but I was like, I'm gonna post this. I don't know if they want to be in on that.
This
you know,
place,
it's kind of revealing in a way, like who's living around here, whatever.
Absolutely. You got to think like that sometimes, right?
But I can't keep telling people to like move out of the alley or like move out of that spot though. So I'm gonna have to like build a wall back there.
You think so?
I'm gonna have to do something. We're gonna shoot outdoors for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
3 months. I can't control the outdoors.
No, right.
We've already been lucky enough with this wind and everything, to be honest.
And then just people hanging out, you know.
Yeah.
Like nobody's got a block party next door or something like that.
What's the vibe like in your neighborhood?
Quiet.
What kind of neighborhood first? Tell people.
Well, we live in the suburbs. We live in the
Chicago,
suburbs. Yeah, so
Midwest
Chicago.
city.
Yeah, real nice.
Every single time we do this episode, I'm pretending like no one's ever heard of
this. Yeah.
Chicago is a city. It means smelly onions. Derived from
a whale's vagina. I'm sorry. That's San Diego. I'm sorry. My fault.
Easy to get those two confused. Your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice, small, really pretty tight knit. We're meeting neighbors left and right now because everyone's out. And now I feel it's funny you asked because we took a walk to my mom's yesterday just to say hi because we just were getting a little stir crazy, so I had to go for a long walk.
It's understandable.
And I felt like Mr. Park Ridge because now I'm at a stage where, you know, my kids go to school like right there. So like you're just walking and everyone's out and you're like, oh, hey, Mike, what's going on, Mike? Oh, hey, what's up, Sam? You know, just like, you know, you just know everybody. And it felt very surreal to me because I never thought that I would be that Park Ridge dad out there with the kids pushing the stroller, doing the whole thing, you know.
I was going to say, you had like a 10-year Rumspringa in Logan Square, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Kinda? Oh, man, yeah. Right after I left high school, I moved out. I went to the city, and I lived there for 10 years.
At first, does it seem like you were afraid of like just taking on that role in your hometown or where you're from? Because I have that sort of thing going on here.
Yeah. Considering
I'm also from this neighborhood.
Definitely.
And I see people like from growing up and even see people I know, just their family members or something. And I've had different feelings about it over the years, and I'm much more positive about it now. Yeah, definitely now. Well, you know, now for me and with kids, I'm definitely more positive, you know. But it's not that I was like fully negative about it before. I like to see people from my past and whatnot. Obviously, you have to pick up some of that emotional baggage or just at least do some of the mental math on what the relationships were like or what someone's feeling from, you know, when you knew them 10 years ago or whatever, 15 years ago. What's up, dude? You know? Exactly. Trying to recalibrate where the relationship is at. But I think usually those are pretty fruitful interactions if you invest in them. But it's weird, too, because, you know, when we talked about this previously, been on the cast, but I'm a lot younger than a lot of the fathers and the people like that have kids in the school right now. You know, I don't think we talked about this on the cast. I think you talked about this like right after. Yeah, right? We just mentioned it. Let's talk about that. But like, yeah, it's just interesting because a lot of them, you know, I'm 33, still not too young, but a lot of these guys are like 45. You know what I mean? And they're like late 40s. You know, I think people nowadays are having kids just a little later, anyways, right? Right. So a lot of them are, and you know, Parker Ridge, I guess, is a pretty affluent, you know, it's not like a cheap place, especially like because it's got like good schools. So a lot of them are like pretty well off and they're all a little older than me. So it's a bit intimidating sometimes trying to come in, especially like, hey, what's up, you know? That's a lot, man. That's a whole lot. And to me, from what I've learned about the economic occurrences that are happening now, there's going to be all these continued class issues moving forward. I mean, I'm not pretending like I've invented the concept of economic inequality. Yeah. But I'm really focused on like class issues with that. Oh, you know, anytime you look at populism, that's sort of economic frustration at some level. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward with this winner-take-most society that we keep seeing reflected in the stock market.
I mean, like right now, currently, what's the, you see that $600 bonus that people got for unemployment right now, and it's making it so people are making more on unemployment than when they were working.
Right.
And
that's a major deal. Incentives matter a lot to me. I can't make any sense around incentives not existing or not being the main thing that causes people to act in certain ways. Economics is kind of the study of incentives.
Yeah, right. Isn't that what it is, right?
Yeah. So it's you want to take the behavioral element into account too, because a lot of times flat economics, they consider humans to be, quote, rational actors, which we're not. We get in moods and we act crazy sometimes, for lack of a better word. But there are a lot of asymmetries in daily life. I want to read that book. Have you read that?
What?
Nassim Taleb?
No, I have not.
The Incerto series. He's got Black Swan and all these books about like uncertainty.
I have not read that.
Financial markets, whatnot. Another day. I really want to start a financial show, by the way.
Yeah.
Talk about money specifically.
Specific economics and money.
Because of the class thing you were mentioning.
Yeah.
You're in this situation where you all have a very similar life stage. You have children at this exact age, at this exact period of time, at this school. And you all have the same incentive to create a good community for these kids, right?
Absolutely. And that's part of going back to like feeling better about it. Because, I remember going to kindergarten orientation for Clementine, which feels like forever ago, going into Franklin and being like nervous to take my daughter, like, oh, I'm nervous. Like, what is this going to be like dealing with all these people in this situation? But when I went through, I remember walking, and when I walked, all I saw was like reflections of me. Like other nervous parents that just care about, having a good community for their own kids, right? That's what it's all about. So those feelings that I feel about like the insecurities, it's like, you don't have to feel like that because everyone's feeling secure, but we all have that common goal, right? Yeah. And that's something to feel more positive about, when I'm, Mike makes a shit ton more money than me, but like
fucking Mike,
he's a really good guy. But it's like, being able to like have a good relationship and like we're on the same level as far as wanting good relationships for our kids, right?
Of course. I said fucking Mike. I'm not like
I know.
I'm like that old dog,
yeah,
Mike.
Right.
Go get it.
Yeah.
Have you had some fruitful occurrences come from this? Just like some unexpected things you've learned from talking to the maybe guys a little older along the path, or maybe they have a different, obviously economic perspective in Mike's.
Yeah, right.
Situation.
It's not even that it makes a lot more money.
Mike's
it's just
situation.
He's a good guy. It's more just like learning more. It's all self-reflection is what I've gotten. It's more like, oh, they're the same.
But that's huge.
They're the same. It's not like, oh God, I'm a nerdy guy with comic books and a podcast. Like, how are you? And it's like, oh yeah, I like all that shit too, dude. I also listen to those things, right? It's not, you feel it's that, community. You feel a lot more communal.
And it's so funny when you like look at what someone else has too. Like, maybe you're looking at maybe the kind of car Mike drives. Maybe he's looking at your podcast. You're both salivating.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Like, oh man, that guy gets to do that shit.
Yeah. Because there are certain situations where you do not have time to sit down for an hour-long conversation on a regular basis like this. Yeah. In a way, we're like rich in time, that we can sit down and just, it's a beautiful day out, and we can calmly, without that drumming sweat on us, without all that hard days labor sweat, we can just relax and talk about what it all means.
Part of it too is wanting to do the work, though. You know what I mean? Like that's everything, right? It's wanting to do this, right? Like, but yeah, grass isn't always greener, right? I think that I'm not really that kind of person though to like, covet thy neighbor's goods, so to speak. Like I could see he's got a nice car, and I could be like, that's a nice car he's got, but I can't. I'm not like, man, that fucking guy's got a nice car.
Yeah, to be honest,
why don't I have that car?
You're not like that.
It's because I haven't done the same things that person's done. I'm not a very jealous person, like when it comes to like other success.
Cool. Yeah, you're not. And I must understand this about you on some level, otherwise I wouldn't be signing up, I think, to have conversation after conversation with you. No, I mean really, because when someone is just filled with resentment and hate toward what others have chosen to spend their time on, or what other people have had the opportunity to achieve, you just don't go very far, and I don't think it lasts very long in terms of a good, productive relationship.
How do you? That's and then that goes back to other things we've talked about. Is I don't understand how there's so many angry people in this world that it just doesn't go anywhere. You know, the trolls, all this. How do you?
It's bad programming.
The
There's no
chaos
doubt about
you
it.
put out into the world comes back to you,
Yes.
and I believe that fully. The energy you put out, you get back. You know?
I do too. I was about 25. I felt like when I had a real adult realization of that.
A specific instance that happened to you, or you just brain chemistry, you just kind of was like, hey, this is it now.
I think, you know, at the time I was spending a lot of time alone. It was like 26 actually. And I wasn't spending, I still like had a roommate and stuff, so I wasn't like fully alone, so to speak. But I spent more time by myself, and it allowed me to kind of reflect on the kind of influence I have on a day-to-day basis with maybe a cashier at Home Depot versus someone at an intersection. Versus someone in my family that I love deeply, and thinking about how you're constantly voting with your actions for people to act a certain way.
Yes.
And I mentioned the 25 or 26-year-old. I'll do the easy one, which is driving in traffic.
Yeah.
Someone does something dumb on the road, and you're like, hey, I got to let this individual know how inconsiderate and ignorant they have been.
You stupid motherfucker.
In
like
this
that.
vehicular moment.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a certain finger, out my window here. No, but you have these moments where you scream at like someone like, there's no turn on red. There's, you think you're like policing someone, whatever. Or maybe someone cut someone off and then you say, don't cut people off, or that's dangerous, right? You think you're doing a good thing. But if it's still negative, if it's still a negative interaction, or you're still creating like negative energy in that moment,
yes.
they're probably not going to take the actual lesson that you want.
No.
And they're probably going to convert that negative energy into flipping off the next guy on the road.
Absolutely. I firmly believe that.
You're voting to cover your own world and shit, because I only drive this certain streets every day, and I only live certain paths in life. And if you're shitting along that path in life, whether it's a day or a month later, it might come bite you. And it's gonna feed back whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously.
Right.
It's happening.
Absolutely. I think that's,
we can't deny this because we now live in the fucking neighborhoods we're from.
Yes,
We're literally from. And I think
Right.
a lot of people, they get disconnected, and that's what fucks them up, They move someplace they're not from, they don't know people there.
Yes.
Their grandma's house isn't down the street, so they don't give a shit if they litter there.
Right.
Whatever the hell.
No family near them, no connection, no community. You know what I mean?
And I'm not saying, I don't think people realize what they're missing a lot of times when they're missing out on those things, and when they don't have
You don't know
the
what
same
you don't know what
inclusion in
steps
the
to go.
community.
No, not at all. I was the same age though, 26. I feel like I was 26, and and a big thing for me is I've always worked in like the service industry, retail. So I remember working at Starbucks, right? And I lived in the neighborhood at that Starbucks, and you generally, when you deal with a lot of customers, you get those bad apples, right? And I became the guy that people would go to fix the bad apples, right? And any job, I would love to deal with the difficult people, right? Because that's my chance as a person to put my positive energy on that person and suck that poison out, right? So that's how I feel. Like that's how I feel. Like they're a snake bite, right? I gotta go get that snake bite poison out.
That's a great way to think about it.
And I would do it consistently, and I would get it so people would be like, wow, how did you do that?
You know what's great about that comparison is that you're removing the negative thing from their life in an unpleasant way for you that won't necessarily kill you.
But that's what I'm saying.
You have to suck it into your mouth.
You have
into your lips.
You have to take that I don't want to fucking deal with this person and their fucking shenanigans.
You do pay on some level,
but
you pay with energy at least.
But I tell you what, doing that, I feel like I'm doing something positive for putting positive energy out there.
But I feel like it's almost like a renewable energy. In the negative one, I think that is more the destructive energy, the one that doesn't self-perpetuate in that way.
No. But I think by not helping people sometimes, or showing them that not everybody's against them in their life, even if that's what they're portraying them, right? As because I think sometimes people who are fucking assholes are like, well, everyone's a jerk, right? And it's like, well, they're not self-reflective enough to be like, oh wait, I'm the piece of shit, and it's me that's the problem, right? So sometimes when you show them a positive person when they're being a fucker to you, you're like, oh, well, that guy wasn't so bad. Maybe not everyone's so bad. Maybe I'm not so bad. It's like the kind of thing, the dominoes. You got to push the dominoes down.
Yeah. One positive thing about the corona, maybe after this, people will have that time. I mentioned when I was alone and was able to be self-reflective. I mean, it's a thing that is hard to get, and obviously we're not producing a lot of GDP-based economic activity. There's a lot of people who lost their jobs. Hopefully, one of the good things that does come from this time is more community care, maybe a softer focus on how you want to treat others in your Your new bubbles.
Well, yeah, right.
Your macro bubbles.
How excited you're going to be to see people. That's the feeling I feel like we've been feeling, right? Walking through the neighborhood. I'm excited to see people because we're all trapped inside, right? So it's not like you're like, oh, fucking this guy again. You're like, oh, I want to see and talk to this guy, right? Because it's like, I can't do that, right? I'm hoping that's the thing.
You're thirsty.
But, yeah, thirsty for love. But there is another thing that I think about is how many of those angry, crazy, negative people are stewing around their house by themselves. And when they do get unleashed back onto society, how much of that fucking tornado are they bringing with them out the door? And that's what I'm thinking about sometimes, right? How many of those crazies that can road rage out there and get that little microaggressions out during the day are just not? And so where's that all going?
No, I know. Where's it all going? There's only so many people who are sucking on snake bites, for sure.
And when nobody's able to suck out the venom when you're by yourself in your house, right? You can't go to Starbucks and see that barista that makes you drink the right way and, is like, hey, he's okay guy. Or go to the local bar and hang out with your fucking friends at the bar and, cause trouble. How about those guys that love to go out and get in bar fights and just get in fucking bar fights? What are those guys doing right now?
They're trying, to my understanding at least, trying to add a certain hue of color to their peacock plumage. Would you say that is accurate? Would you say that is giving people too much credit with what percentage of thought process goes to their subconscious mind?
I hope that's what's happening.
It's really hard to say what it is exactly. I'm glad you've been enjoying your roots. I'm glad you've been enjoying the hometown feeling.
Yeah, how about you? How's it going over here?
It's been great. It's been great. Actually, June 1st, I will have been back in this place. It's like in my home neighborhood, basically. It'll be a year since I moved back. I also had like a Rumspringa in Logan Square, sort of like yourself.
That's what you
but
do.
It's fantastic. And I lived here like 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago. And looking back on that time, I was just a totally different person, of course. But I just wasn't ready to live here.
Yeah.
Like living here now, I'm ready to like do adult shit that requires patience and perseverance, like taking care of the grass. As you can see for this, I painted the garage before I even knew that we were going to be out here all summer,
right?
Recording in front of the fucking thing.
And now it's like a piece of this.
Now it's like a set piece.
Yeah.
This thing looked like shit last year when I moved back. I scraped paint off this thing. I primed it. I had the gutters and the fascia replaced. It was ridiculous. Absolutely.
And now
ridiculous.
it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. But and also last year when I had just moved back here, one of the reasons that we had to record in the garage freezing the last 20 episodes, basically when we were in there.
I don't know what you're talking about.
When we were freezing all winter recording those episodes, one of the reasons we were suffering is because the whole summer last year when I first moved here, I spent all my time in the yard, working on the yard, on my hands and knees, gardening, which is an old person thing, kind of, right? Like taking care of gardening.
It's an adult thing.
It's an adult thing. It takes patience.
Because you appreciate it when you're older.
You do. It's just you literally have to be alive longer to see how cool fucking plants are when they grow. You know what I mean? You don't get trees until it's been like 20 years, and you've seen a tree go from this tall to X tall, like until you've seen some major movement, like you have felt in your own life. You start to see your connection to the world much more deeply.
You put roots down. Figuratively and like you're literally put roots down here and you plant things, you watch it grow from year to year, and like me, I look at my landscaping, my house, and I'm like, oh man, and I think about things and I want to weed and do all this stuff because next year it's gonna look like XYZ,
right?
Like you
over the years too, not just owning something originally.
No,
I was just talking about this. Yeah, I'm getting so fucking passionate. It's not just about what you buy in life. It's not just about what you have an idea for starting. It's about what you continue. Especially I've been thinking about this because of this motherfucking podcast.
Yeah.
And the fact that my whole goal was to build this beautiful garage, turn it into a studio, and then, set up the tripods once and then record 50 times. I've set up the tripods and the mics and everything every time we have recorded.
And you're switching location, like views and everything,
Dear
right?
God, yeah. I mean, there's so much efficiency in just being able to build off of a strong base. You used to walk around when you were a kid. I'm sure you had a different opinion on landscaping back then.
I had no opinion back then. Right?
I didn't either, actually. Yeah, I was
what I mean?
What the fuck is a hosta?
Well, you could appreciate. I'll tell you what. Here's a great example. Botanic garden, right? Now I love the Botanic Garden, right? I love fucking going there. I love walking through the gardens. The Japanese island, just fucking love that place, right? Just it feels good.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I don't know if I could care less, right? Like I'm sure I'd be like, this is cool, this is nice, and it was not necessarily the same feelings that I feel now as an adult, and appreciating the things that I can appreciate. You know, that level of maturity that comes with age, right?
It just takes time.
Yeah.
No, which is a good thing. Walking around your neighborhood now, do you feel like you have more appreciation for how hard everyone's been working on their landscaping now that you see how hard it is to keep a shrub looking nice?
Yes. I walked by this grass the other day, and I just went, that is some fucking pristine grass. And I laughed, and Clem was like, what? I was like, I don't know, man. Look at this grass. And she's like, yeah, I guess it's nice. Like, she didn't get it at all, right?
You can't see it when you're so young.
And then
it's funny because when you're young, you can kind of see other things adults can see.
Sure.
And when you're an adult, you kind of can see, or you of course can see tons of things that kids can't see.
But it's different. And then we walked by it a day or two later, and she tells Randy, she goes, look at this grass. Isn't this great grass? And I like laughed at her because she was, you know. But I mean, it was beautiful grass. I can appreciate houses more, like people who put time into their houses. Yeah. We walked by this house, and it had like a really nice message on the sidewalk and like a nice sign that was just, and I was like, I don't know who live in this house, but I like these people. And I said that, right? Like, but then you walk by a house, and they don't take care of anything, and it's kind of dilapidated, and I'm like, well, okay, you're still probably good people, but I don't know, you know. I'm not trying to be judgy. I'm just saying, like, you just look at things now.
No, look at it from the gratitude base, the appreciation perspective.
Right.
When I was in college, I was dating someone who was studying architecture, and looking back, it was amazing to me that that she had like the perspective on what it took to put together a building, or you know, how fantastic it was to get an effort to get this thing built in the way that it looks beautiful the way it does. Anyway, to want to study that when you're younger, to me now that I'm older, it seems crazy because I was like, I took so much of what a building is for granted until I had to take care of one. Yeah. You know, for like, it's now been over 8 years.
Just appreciating architecture. You know, that's another thing. Walking around my neighborhood and seeing all the house. 9 years, what?
8 years.
That's how long it took you?
I just lost my mind there. No, I've had this place for 8 years. I've had to take care of this place for 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
And even at the beginning, I was buying like a cheaper faucet. You know, I'd buy a cheaper faucet because I'm like, oh, why should I buy more for this Moen or this brand? I'm like, what does this matter? You know, this is $40 less. Then I ended up replacing it like 2 years later versus having to replace it 25 years later, or if I just spent $20 more or something.
Buy it for life, right? You want to buy things for life?
I tell you just don't get that.
But you appreciate that stuff more than when you're a kid and everything's disposable. You know what I mean? When you put effort into something. You know?
James, if you found a time machine and you've looked back, please, God, realize what you've done. Realize what you're doing.
Appreciate it.
By the way, there are beautiful birds dancing behind you, like this whole time.
Really?
There's been these birds. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on frame because I can see your camera really well. But my God, they're
one's gonna land on my shoulder, and I'm just gonna pet it gently.
We're right there. We're damn near there.
I'm a Disney princess. You didn't know it.
You could pull that pirate thing off with your goatee.
Oh yeah.
A bird on your shoulder. We should get like a golden earring to put at the bottom of your headphone cup.
I got one.
Just so you can.
I literally got one in my pocket.
At your head that you can put on your headphone cup.
Yeah, let's see.
Put it over. Put it over the the metal part of your headphones.
Yeah, right.
Is this the one you were messing with Shavana with? You guys were both.
I put it in my wallet. Yeah, it's hers. I swear to God, it's hers.
Time out. I knew that. I must have known that.
I was thinking. I was like, he's setting me up for that.
Perfect. Go for it. No, other camera side.
Camera side. Okay.
Your left side. There you go. Yeah, make that shit dangle. You can put it on the metal too if you want to not torture your flesh.
She's gonna laugh.
Just so it's some flair and it jangles a little.
I don't know if I can't remember.
Jingle jangles in the wind.
I put it in my wallet because that Bears game we went to. Remember that Bears game we went to?
That's what it's from.
And I got pretty lit.
Is this what this is from?
Yeah.
This Bears game Matt's bringing up, by the way, is last fall in late 2019 when we actually established doing the podcast for the first time.
Yes. Oh man, I think we just started filming it. And
you must have got lit because you were so excited to
record this. Oh man, I was just so happy. Our whole family was there, you know. We was in like a suite, like a super nice suite, and I was just like, let's just fucking go, right?
Yeah, that was incredible. I can't believe we got to experience that.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa!
But the
first time.
The worst part though.
Sorry, I broke Matt's headphones yesterday.
The worst part though was before, and I can't hear you.
You are trying to. No, it's okay. You are trying to put a custom earring on them, so not making this any easier for yourself.
Boom.
Oh, that looks good.
Much better. Now I feel all right.
Zoom in. Yeah, I forgot I have to wave my hands anytime I need to make an edit, so it doesn't take me. It's not too hard to scrub. Scrub through everything.
Yeah, I got lit at that Bears game. I had a great time. But the big mistake I made was I dropped a cup. Before I was even drunk, before I drank anything, I dropped a cup. So all eyes were on me. So then I was like, well, let's just crank this up. And then I cranked it up, and it was just... I had a good time. Hey, I had a good time. That's all I care.
Little did you know in your inebriated state you'd be placing an earring in your wallet that you'd be busting out.
Forgetting about it, because I re-pierced
24
my ear.
podcasts later.
We re-pierced my ear, and I was bleeding. And I remember Clem was just like, "Oh my God, Daddy, your ear's pierced," and I was like, "Here, let's watch."
Yeah, Siobhan and I know how to party.
Yeah,
we know how to go to a Bears game. Piercing ears.
You guys are
starting podcasts.
Fucking animals.
Fucking up lives.
Savages.
It's good to live though. God, I'm really glad we got that chance to go to professional sports in the end of that era.
Wow, it's funny. My mom was talking about we would get Bears tickets, right, for their company. They get tickets and stuff, and the guy that usually sells them called up and was like, "So how many can I put you down for this season?"
Oh, Jesus.
And she's like, "Are you kidding me right now? None. But it's like he's got a business, right? So all these people are going to be really hurting all these sports teams when there's no fans. That's so much revenue that's just gone, right?"
Yeah, I don't get what's up with that. Have you heard any inside scoop if they're going to do gameless? You could be my sports information center. You could be my sports Rehoboam.
I've
anyone
heard
watches
that.
Westworld.
Not yet. Anyways,
It's not important. You're a supercomputer of sports.
Yeah. The idea, I think, is that I heard that the NBA everyone wants to come back, finish the season, right? I think some people who haven't finished the season have some skin in the game, so to speak.
Thank you for speaking my language.
The Lakers, they were on their way to do. So obviously, LeBron is like, I want to go back this season, right? They don't want to start again.
I'm sorry. Do you mean the small business from the Paycheck Protection Program, Los Angeles Lakers?
Those guys, those villains, those ultimate villains. I think the NBA is trying to come back. I think they're trying to figure it out. I know they talked about bubble games. MLB,
I think they should.
Yeah,
I'm pro it. I don't think the fans need to be there.
No, but
I would love to see some games though, and I think they could look at the economics for testing the players and figure out a way to do it safely.
That's what I was just gonna say. There's a lot of pushback. I heard some MLB player talking about how the hell are they gonna test all of us to do this, right? Germany.
Money.
Right, money.
Patience.
When you have a team of an MLB team, and you have to test them every game, multiple tests, and obviously right now the testing.
Multiple tests per game?
Well, I guess if you're playing 2 games a week, you got to get tested both times.
What? Rogan's been testing people before each podcast.
Antibody tests, right? Maniac.
I guess that's a little different.
Okay, sidetrack. We got to go back to him.
We do.
For his new info. But real quick, there was a story coming from Germany who opened up their football league because they've been doing things correctly. So they opened up, listen to me, their soccer league, and
I wasn't moving because of that. I just had to adjust.
No, but I did. I was like, wow, what a pretentious asshole.
No.
So their football league, their soccer team, they whatever. And I guess they were talking about how they were getting tested, right? And one of the coaches. He had to. I can't see what it is.
Plan.
Yeah.
Continue.
He went to go get toothpaste, and they came back, and they're like, "No, you can't come back," because he left the bubble of the team and all that stuff. So he went out to get toothpaste from the hotel, and they basically were like, "No, quarantine for 14 days. You can't. You got to come back in 14 days."
Yeah, that's fine. They just need to hire an operations manager for COVID.
Right. But then too, what they were saying is
hire the bad guy. You just have to compartmentalize power in one person and make them be the bad guy, quote unquote.
Sure, but how many? So my thing is though, so with MLB teams, and how many players are on a team, and how many personnel are on a team, and so you're still commingling all of these players on a field, right?
There's levels.
Right. There's
if you're in the
levels.
clubhouse level, if you're in the clubhouse bubble, there's a certain scrutiny. But if you're in the press box, there's a different layer of scrutiny.
But they were saying how they were going to then quarantine them, right? So these people wouldn't be able to quarantine with their families. So as an MLB player, do you want to, you know what I'm saying?
I do know.
The one guy, that was what it was.
That's sensible. That makes sense.
He was like, "Oh, my wife is pregnant, and I'm not going to be able to be with the baby if I'm doing this game." And I'll be honest with me.
I wasn't thinking about that.
He's like, and to be honest with you, I much rather would be with my baby than playing baseball because it's the birth of my first child. I'm not going to miss the birth of my first child to play baseball. Right.
Aren't there a lot of guys in the league that are like, I have a baby, I need to make money?
Money, right? Yeah, I think
there's a very small athletic window. There's a very small level for, especially financial performance. When you're an athlete, you have 5 years really to earn and to bring home that bacon that you've worked for 20 years on cultivating.
Going back to incentives, right? And you have all these incentives.
I just don't want to be so simple and say they're millionaires, they're athletes, so they can afford the whatever. It's just
because not everyone's an athlete. There's not everyone's making $100 million contracts.
A lot of people that are getting that jackpot-like payout, you need to actually hit the jackpot.
Right.
There needs to be a lottery, in the athletics for you to be able to cash in on that sort of thing.
You have to be right place, right time. And I think I can't remember. It was a pitcher, and he was actually a very successful pitcher that said it. Oh man, getting it in the face.
Sun's coming. That means it's almost time's up.
Is it really?
Almost there. Yeah. Closer.
But yeah, I completely agree with you. I think we need sports. I think we need that camaraderie. It's inspirational. People feel better when they have that outlet. I absolutely think they need to come back. I just want everybody to be safe about it. I don't want people to be stupid and rush things when it's just. I'll tell you what, I don't want it to be purely for financial gain.
Okay, it's not. And I didn't make this argument well at all. I should have also mentioned that I think the main reason sports should come back, it's not the players making their money. I was just trying to be really quantitative in that way.
That's always a lane for this stuff.
To get qualitative, I think it's the people at home that are just dying for a distraction. They're dying to root for something. They're dying to feel something.
A little normalcy.
They're dying for routine, even to be like, okay, I better cut the grass before the game tonight. You know what I mean? Otherwise, it's just let's have another Miller and, another commercial break went by. And I don't think people are getting things done. I think sports, even though it's viewed as like an expensive luxury, I think it can actually be productive for people's emotions.
Absolutely.
Emotions.
I completely 100% agree.
I mean, I'm speaking as a man, obviously. Right, it's probably the number one outlet for men. I mean, just
You follow sports.
We're
People
all
like
fucking
sports, right?
struggling. Women too, of course, everyone. But like a lot of men can't communicate outside of the sports venue, outside of talking about the game, talking about the ball game, but really talking about their life.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Using that whole thing.
I'll tell you what. I learned the sports talk.
Not everyone
from working
started
at
a
Starbucks.
podcast.
I would learn the sports talk working at Starbucks because I didn't follow. I mean, I followed basketball a little bit, but I didn't get like a good mind for it and be able to talk to. Because good guys would come in and be like, hey, and then you'd be able to communicate. Oh yeah. That there's that level that brings you together.
It's a beautiful thing, and it helps generational gaps too. I found when I was in a workplace or an office setting, it was easy to talk about sports, something like that, with different cultures and ages.
Commonality. It was a nice commonality, and Chicago Bulls. So you're from Chicago, you like the Bulls. It's I completely agree.
And we need that more than ever. I'm trying to think. Is there a figure that both of us have discussed on the podcast before that has been a part of sports returning to normal and or maybe commentating on a certain fighting?
Oh, Mr. Joseph Rogan. I wonder, is his name Joseph? I wonder.
It is.
It's Giuseppe. It's Giuseppe Rogan, isn't it?
Joe, congratulations on your success, your Spotify. We said we wanted to talk about this because we just started a podcast.
I mean, yeah,
and we talk about Joe Rogan. I mean, he's the one, quote unquote, or at least he was. I mean, he still is.
Yeah.
But he's kind of going exclusive in a way, which is, I mean, I'm just seeing this as his Stern moment when Stern went to Sirius XM Radio, and you're validating all your hard work. I'm not going to say cashing in first. You're also cashing in, and then you're building this more permanent platform for how you're going to sustain this machine of your podcast, because obviously Spotify is going to be able to bring him strength too in some way.
Oh yeah.
Even though he's not an employee, quote unquote. How do you feel about it? Because obviously I feel very opinionated and strong.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. I think his reasoning is solid. I know people are going to say, like you said, he's sold out or
I'm
sad
people can't watch it on YouTube. I don't care about. I don't think it's sold out because I think he's making plenty of money on YouTube. Whatever.
Yeah.
I want to be able to see it easier and quicker. That's the main reason I'm upset. Or
Yes.
that I would not have chosen this. But there may be things he knows about that I don't with YouTube specifically.
That was going to be the thing that I was going to talk about.
He does complain about YouTube and
Yes.
whatnot. So if he's doing this private partnership as a way to maintain freedom, because he knows eventually stuff is going to get cut off YouTube because they're just doing kids programming in the future or whatever the fuck is happening on YouTube.
Yeah.
Then I'll be moving my podcast to Spotify too, and he's going to be yet again ushering a new generation of people into the next medium.
I think that
I don't think that's the thing. I think he's going to go to XM Radio, and now I think it's going to be like how XM Radio turned out for Stern, which is not me saying it's a bad thing. It's just that consequence of that sort of evolution once you've gotten that big.
Yeah, I think he's like you said, he's the one, right? Sometimes you get to a point where you're so dominant in the field that you make that decision, a big decision like this.
Right.
I think that's
and people will follow you.
Yeah, I think he knows. He knows that everyone,
which they
people
should,
already have Spotify.
He deserves it.
I can't. I don't really fault him at all. I agree. Sucks that it's not on YouTube anymore. But like you said, YouTube is going in a very strange direction. I think there's definitely some kids another podcast I follow is Your Mom's House, and they were trying to demonetize that because it shows a lot of like, you know, adult content, right? It was originally made as an adult content thing. Fighter and the Kid, they were talking about the same thing. They have adult content now, but now they're being demonetized because they have bad language.
Right.
And it's like, well, from the beginning, this is what we've been. But now because YouTube is changing, they're trying to force us to change. And I think that's what Rogan was feeling, that like he doesn't want to be put in a place where he has to change and do things differently. He wants to have more control, right? He's always been that guy.
Right.
So even though it's like, oh, Spotify, blah, 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 it sounds like it's a licensing agreement. It doesn't sound like he's like selling, you know, the Joe Rogan podcast. He's allowing his podcast and his...
He has sold the show.
Has he? To them?
I mean, they have exclusive rights to
Sure.
distribute it. So.
Sure. But isn't that still licensing rights,
I'm
not
sorry.
intellectual
Yeah, you're
property?
Right. I'm even if you can say technically in 5 years he can pull it and then go on a new platform or whatever, which he may have done. That may be the case, but I don't know. I think because he's now going to leave, it just doesn't. It's never going to mean the same thing. Now, those rebroadcasts. It's not like he's showing the rebroadcasts or the reruns from what we all saw on YouTube growing up. You know, kind of like you have for other old shows that are replayed, what have you, in syndication.
It's going to be weird when he's
different
gone.
thing because
he's gone. He's going to be off YouTube.
He's going to be, maybe he'll bring the episodes back to YouTube that were never on YouTube in the first place. So they're not as culturally relevant. The comments aren't the same on them. Do you know what I mean?
When
I
it's
think
just
there's a lot of things built into the show that's more than just where it's hosted. I say that even though I don't necessarily need to be on YouTube. I don't care if I put myself on Vimeo or, Spotify, if that's the new thing. It's,
right.
As, the type of mindset I have for creating doesn't rely upon how it's delivered in that way, whether it's a big TV or a small TV. I try to build them for both sizes. These podcasts especially, we choose how they're shot based on if you're viewing this on an iPhone versus if you're looking on your big screen TV. This is designed to work for both of those ways. So it's not that I'm ignorant to those mediums influencing
I think, though,
your production decisions.
A lot of it is just ownership. He wants ownership of his product. He wants
frontal
more control.
lobe control. I don't blame him, but how do you get more control than totally independent?
Yeah, right. No, yeah, right, exactly. But
he's gonna have less control. So I don't buy
don't think so? You don't think he's gonna? No.
I don't think you gain control.
Yeah.
By signing up with an entity. I think that's the opposite point. You gain power. You gain prestige.
Well, going back to the Stern
scope.
example.
You do not gain control. I think that's what you lose.
No, I think when you go back, well, look at the Stern example. Do you think he lost anything by going to Sirius XM? I don't. I think he got even more dominant. I think he got even more dominant.
I do. Well, he was bound. He was going to become more dominant either way. Here's what I think. I think any time that he maybe the Sirius gives him the same budget he had before. He's spending $50 million a year. Let's say something crazy. That Stern is spending $50 million a year. Maybe he submits a budget, one quarter where he spent $12 million on some crazy series of jokes that were incredible jokes and that were probably worth $12 million to his audience. But upon maybe spending that $12 million, even though it's Spotify's money or XM's money or whatever example you're putting in your brain right now, that when you get that memo that says, hey, did you need to spend that $12 million here? Could you maybe have spent $10 million there and $2 million on marketing? That's gonna fucking be in your brain, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your business partner, the person who really is not in control but can tell you stuff and can send you memos, it's gonna be in your brain. And I'm sorry, but that does make you less free. And I know he cares about freedom too, which is what makes me not fully understand why he would lose freedom, because he has not lost his freedom yet on YouTube.
No, it hasn't gone yet.
And
but
I can only see it if he wanted to get out before the ship sank.
The winds of change. I feel like he smells the winds of change. And I also think
I'm not giving it that he's getting more freedom though, or control. And I think he will. I'm sorry. He will stay free. I do think the show's going to be largely the same, but anytime, God, you build up more of a shell and infrastructure. If he has employees now that talk to him, that even if they're telling him only compliments about what they like about his show, hey, do more of this, do more of this. If they're being positive or whatever the fuck, oh, be crazier, do this. You still got more kitchens or cooks in the kitchen. Yeah, you do.
We'll see. It's like, you make some good points. I still think that he would not have done it if it was, if Spotify was gonna like put their hand, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to be as...
They're not going to.
You think it's just in the background?
Now.
Like, you think
they're not going to now.
It'll be years from now, like 2 years, a year from now. Hey, we want to do it a little differently.
It'll be 4 months from now. It'll be 2 months from now. It's happening in September.
Right.
The guy who maybe...
September, but by the end of the year, that's when everything's going to transfer. By the end of this year, everything's going to transfer.
Guess what happens at big companies, especially during pandemics and financial shakeups? There's change in upper management. And what's going to happen is the people maybe the team of men and women that chose Joe as their like future for podcasting, they maybe half of them get fired and half of them move on to better jobs, and they go on to work at Apple Music instead of Spotify and this and that. And then new people come in that don't like him, specifically for political reasons, maybe, which is a great example considering what he's been through.
Wow.
And then they don't treat him quite the same, and they do push back on him a little bit harder. Hey, I signed a contract for 4 years to do this. Yeah, not with me.
Yeah, right.
With our company.
Did you, I don't know, this is a side track, another podcast, similar situation. It's called Call Her Daddy. Have you heard that podcast before?
No.
Barstool Sports?
I've heard of the, I've seen the founder of that interviewed recently, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Eccentric, sort of?
Yeah, he's kind of, he's a fascinating guy to me. Anyways, they had a podcast, a huge podcast. It's called Call Her Daddy. It's these two girls, Alexa Cooper and Sophia, I can't remember Sophia's last name, I'm sorry. But they went into some crazy shit because that podcast was exploding, right? It was basically two girls that were fairly raunchy, just talking about, their sex life and living as a 20-something girl in this, and it was very popular.
20-something girl in Park Ridge, Illinois?
No, like in the city, and it was it was just extremely popular, and it was very gossipy, and it was very, I thought, very pro-women, right? Like they were just very upfront with it and everything. They started getting very, very popular, and they signed a contract with Portnoy, right? And I guess right now on Instagram there is a huge war going on between what they call the Daddy Gang, which is their podcast, and Barstool Sports, because from what I understand is they basically wanted to take their intellectual property, which is Call Me Daddy, and then leave and go somewhere else to another podcast, Wondery or something like that, because they were going to give them much more money. But the problem was they signed a contract, and the contract states no, you were just on Call Her Daddy. Barstool Sports owns Call Her Daddy.
Yeah, that stuff has only gotten better, honestly.
Oh, we both burped at the same time.
Yeah, I was trying not to do it on mic though. As I was leading up.
But
we are synced up.
It was the whole story was fascinating, because then he gets on, and this guy, he doesn't take fucking shit. He's a fucking alpha bro.
I saw him on CNBC.
Yes,
I've been watching so much CNBC.
He likes Fox News a lot too.
He's my Comedy Central now, basically.
It's interesting. But anyways, he was on there, and he goes basically on Instagram, and he just basically spills the whole story. He's just these two girls wanted more money. We were willing to do the deal with them. They didn't want to do the deal, but one of them decides to do the deal, the other one doesn't. So then they're basically breaking up this and then they end up having the #1 podcast, because he goes on the show, and then they have the #1 podcast in the nation this last 2 weeks, Call Her Daddy, because this is so popular, because all of these college age kids, this is all they listen to. This is the new Love Line, basically.
Oh, okay.
Call Her Daddy.
Yeah.
But they were about to peak, they're
you
hitting
mean Ask
stride.
Ruth?
Yeah.
Did you mean Ask Ruth by Loveline?
yeah, sorry. Loveline.
I'm of a different generation.
Yeah,
man.
sorry. Loveline. No, Loveline was the shit back in the day. But it's all that kind of stuff, relationship advice, blah, blah, blah. But anyways, it was super popular. But instead of having the power that Joe Rogan has, where he's saying, no, I control my fucking shit, and deciding, they had no control, and they kind of got the shaft. But like I said, one of them took the deal, and one of them was they're actually giving, I want to stick with, Barstool. It's crazy, though.
In case you have not realized at home, this is the age where so many technologies have been democratized just because their costs have gone down so tremendously.
Yeah.
Anyone could do what we are doing right now. This is being shot on 2 iPhones in my DSLR. Obviously, we have fantastic microphones. I have a nice computer. We have preamps, stuff going on that's taking it to the next level, because I care and I'm older.
Right, I was just going to say,
the means.
It goes back to the...
but for God's sakes, why the fuck do you need to sign an old school 1950s record deal with this company that's going to own everything like a production company when your production company's in your garage?
That's what I was saying.
Your production company's in your house. So for Joe to do that, it's what the fuck? He already had the thing. He already had the pink garage.
Okay, well, back to
Why
that.
did he leave it?
Back to that. Okay,
maybe because I'm on a different part of the journey. Maybe he's looking to get something different out of it. He doesn't want to. He wants to offload maybe some of the responsibilities to Spotify. Maybe they're going to help him take care of
$100 million
bullshit.
is $100 million. That's the rumor that he got. $100 million is $100 million.
Yeah, I heard.
Naval
Ravikant say stuff a while ago about that he was being offered a lot of money, and even with advertising revenue, he was bringing in maybe dozens of millions, if not close to 100 million a year.
I guess Spotify gave him the contract, though. The contract was for
it's going to be some big amount.
It's he's making sick money.
It's gonna be. I mean, Chappelle Show was offered the $50 million back in 2007. It's been almost 15 years.
And he ended up making good on that. He stuck to his guns, and he made that back from Netflix.
He did.
I love fucking Dave Chappelle.
I mean, he is more, not to say Joe is not a true artist, but Dave, is a true artist. He bends over backwards to make sure his visions are being seen and looked at in the way he wants people. Speaking of control,
Dave Chappelle is the greatest comedian of our generation. I said it, and I mean
I mean, that's not controversial.
No, it's not. But I mean, I'm sure people could debate it, and you don't want to talk.
No,
like,
of course. I think I love Dave Chappelle too. That's why I think it's so obvious.
Yeah.
He's the master, of course.
I just won the Mark Twain Prize. I mean, like, you
but
don't do that. You don't
there's
get
always
that
more
by...
money though, man, and that's why even Rogan taking the $100 million, like that makes quite a headline.
But I think, like you said, you were getting there too. I think he's put 11 years into this. He's invested his time and energy, and maybe he wants to kind of,
He wants to actually get that $100 million price tag and say 10 years, $100 million. I just made $10 million a year salary, right? Tell himself that.
Look at how successful I am now.
Right.
Blah blah blah. I've made it
in your 40s. In your probably biggest earning decade in his 40s, he's now 52 or whatever. That 10 years basically recorded the podcast. He did truly make like $10 million a year. Then he wasn't making that amount.
Right. He's not an unwealthy guy. And I mean, now he's just like hanging out talking to his friends, and he's just making like sick money. And then they're just like, okay, well, you want to give us exclusive rights to stream it? You can basically keep it the way you want it, and we'll give you $100 million, and you won't have to deal with the YouTube shit, right? The demonetizing of you because of your content, right? So they might want him to go more in a direction. But sorry.
No.
I didn't mean to say. I didn't mean to stop you. I just meant it's interesting though, because people bring up how Spotify got rid of InfoWars. They got rid of InfoWars, but they're bringing in Rogan. And I think, like, back to your point, the political talk that you're talking about, like, I think you realize that we're pretty liberal people on this thing, but I think Joe Rogan has always assumed that he's like very right wing, or that but he's not at all.
No,
you listen to Rogan enough, he's not right wing at all, right? Like he's
but he's
got a right wing friends. So.
He's astute enough though to understand that he's been able to keep these conversations between liberals and conservatives going in a way that makes him look like a bald-headed conservative, but he actually has done simultaneously, I think, done a good thing keeping conversations between different ideologies going, while also I think carving a niche, being like the right winger, the new right winger, the alternate right winger, the intellectual dark web, all these different phrasings and ways to describe someone who really is not right wing, but is at least amenable to
open-minded
right wing ideology.
Yeah. And sometimes you watch him as he drifts. And then he'll drift back, right? You see him, like, people tell him, and he'll say some things, and you're like, I don't know if you'd have said that a couple of weeks ago or months ago, especially with anyways, with his,
The thing about that, though, is I do think it's actually required for a good conversation. I think you have to be willing to just take whatever bullshit the person you sit down with has to offer. And
you do a great job of that, by the way.
What makes you say that?
I'm just kidding. Because I'm full of bullshit. Because I'm full
taking
of
your
bullshit.
bullshit right now. I'm not going to take your bullshit right now. No. So I do think it's important to kind of make someone feel safe.
Yep.
Otherwise, you just got a gotcha show.
Yeah, and nobody wants. And
short term. That is short term. Yeah.
It's part of the reason it's fun to listen to his 3-hour conversations, because it's like it takes it seriously, right? It's not a gotcha. You know what I mean? It's not like a how can I get the soundbite. It's like how can I get deep into a subject, in this 3 hours, and we can glean some stuff out of it, right?
How about this in terms of theory for how his podcast can change due to the money, outside of his own desire, to not be wilder anymore? What if the podcast makes a lot of money, and then he feels like pressured to keep making money, to keep the advertisers, like if people at Spotify are like, thank you so much, this is all going great, we love you, Joe, you're taking care of the Spotify family. What if the pressure of the Spotify family starts to get to him, or he starts to feel like, oh my God, this is like a big institution now, oh my God, there's a stock price that relies upon my success now? Because that is actually going to be reality. Yep. There's going to be people that invest in Spotify because
of Joe Rogan,
that look at Joe Rogan and will sell that stock if he has a bad show. He's going to have to live with that Elon type weight now. Is that going to weigh his show down? Is that going to make him less free as an artist?
Maybe he doesn't care.
Joe, I'm terrified for you. I'm terrified for you.
I love it. I love that you
Joseph.
are. I'm trying to be more optimistic, but I also I don't know.
I'm not trying to sound pessimistic. I'm just trying to probably justify all the effort I put into being independent with this shit. You know what I mean? I'm probably just spouting my own.
Well, he started
ideology.
Just like this.
Yeah.
Before this is the same way he started. Him and Red Band, right? That's how they started. It was just them, doing their thing, and then it got bigger and bigger, and then he got himself his studio, which you're already ahead of the game when having your own studio,
But again, anything's a studio now.
Yeah.
So why do you need Spotify's? Swedish company, by the way, Mr. America, American flag. He sold out to a Swedish company. I'm not trying to get all nationalistic on this. I just think it's a little funny because he has a major American brand. His brand is very American.
Straight up American.
Wouldn't you say?
Remember he had the big flag behind him for the longest time? Is it still behind him right now?
Oh, it's
Probably,
the current. Yeah, that's the current. And I'm into that, and I have a lot of love for things I've experienced in this country. Obviously, I have intellectual misgivings, as we all do, but it's kind of funny that he sold it to a Swedish for-profit company. Did you think about that?
I didn't necessarily think about it till you brought that up, and that is a very interesting thought.
He
it is maybe selling out a little bit.
Took these people who love America, who love watching his show with the American flag behind him, and then gave the profits to Sweden. I'm Swedish, by the way. So if I ever could fucking talk about something, it's this one.
I'm not being racist. I'm Swedish.
No, it would sound that way if I was talking about different countries and whatever.
I think you're just talking about nationalistic pride and giving it back,
I happen to be pointing out, that his brand is Americana. Yeah, and he's got he also has the bull skull or the longhorn type stuff. That's very plains, United States, Midwest.
He wants to move to Texas, right?
Oh, and now he's going to move to Texas.
That's what he's saying, because LA is too strict. These corona restrictions are too strict, so he wants to move to Texas.
He talked about that before. And he did that before. He used to live in Colorado.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a whole podcast about Joe Rogan.
No, but I just it's where he is like the Michael Jordan of podcasting right now, right? He is at the top.
Perfect timing for that Last Dance, for that Jordan jersey I just wore yesterday. I appreciate that.
It's perfect. Man,
he is the Michael Jordan of podcasting.
Yeah, and he kind of where he goes, everyone's gonna follow. So I think it's gonna be the new like people are going to migrate to Spotify. I think that's what he's trying to do, is get on that before it starts. Yeah. Because I think people are going to get tired of the restrictions on YouTube. So I think he's just kind of ahead of the curve. I think that's where he's doing it. I don't know if it's, The
last thing I want to bring up, to be fair, which I think is a major point, is podcast itself is an Apple company technology. So he did go from an Apple company, quote unquote, podcast to maybe being famous off of YouTube. We're talking about YouTube, but it's I'm just saying he's leaving YouTube and he's leaving Apple. It's really about Apple, not Google.
Like iTunes, right?
I'm using YouTube, but that's kind of, we're both using it because that's what this medium is, whatever.
Right. But it's iTunes. He's leaving iTunes.
So he actually, in terms of the company associations,
but
it was Apple in California, it was Google California, and now it's Spotify.
Sweden. He's actually gonna, I hear that they were talking that Spotify is gonna have a streaming service similar to YouTube. Right, that is going to be their next angle. Is they're going to try to have another video hosting site.
To be honest, what the fuck else are they going to offer the world? No offense to Spotify, but what the hell? Get going. If you're going to be a media company,
that's what they're doing. It's slowly. So now they have the biggest media podcasting guru on the planet right now, and now you're going to have him broadcasting on your official streaming service.
Fuck yeah.
So then now you know what I mean. That's.
Apple, though, when they started like Beats, their radio show, like when they kind of started going after Spotify and they have Apple Music, when they kind of started going after Spotify, they hired Drake and they hired all these people to have signature shows and have a signature radio show so that plays some of their new songs to get people excited, but also just plays normal bangers or like interesting music that people would be interested in. So I've seen corporations kind of do this before, spend a shit ton of cash on talent, trying to make it polished and try to make it attractive, and it totally fucking fails.
Well,
current example of this, even though I just brought up Apple Radio, which I think could be a great example, but Apple did it again with Apple Plus, their television service. Hired Steve Carell, Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, Mr. Star Wars, what's his name? Lost, Alias.
J.J. Abrams?
J.J. Abrams. They hired him. How much have you heard about Apple TV's shows? Do you give a shit about their show?
No, I mean, no.
Are you going to give a shit about Spotify? I just don't see this going any different than I've seen the other corporate acquisitions over the years. I see it being the XM Howard Stern thing. I just can't get over it.
Right, again.
It sickens me. I thought I wasn't so upset about it. Talking about it now, I'm painting myself in this corner.
Amping you up. It's, I think, but like we just said, though, he's the Michael Jordan right now. So I think you'll be surprised at how many of his loyal fans will follow him. And if it's about now getting subscriptions to Spotify, if that is his end goal now, is trying to get more people you know what I mean? That's the thing,
I suppose, but yesterday for the podcast, I wore his Bulls jersey, not the jersey he wore on the Wizards. Let's put it that way.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So I don't
know
what kind
of. What? That's a great point.
I don't know what kind of jersey that Rogan's going to put on when he plays for the Wizards, but you know, when we're looking at the highlights over the years, it's probably going to be Alex Jones, episode 9/11. It's probably going to be those ones that, you know, were part of the mass market era. I would have to guess, just like Stern.
I feel like you totally, with that one little analogy, you like flipped my brain, and I was like, "Holy fuck, you're absolutely right."
I think the podcast is going to end
When
right now.
our
Oh my God!
Look at you.
is complete. Please return.
Well, he's just done. He just okay. That's it. All right, bye.
Isolation lifestyles.
I am a drummer. I am a trained timekeeper, and I felt the end coming there. But I
Wow.
can't believe as I said it,
It was
ended.
like, wow, that was impressive. That was impressive.
On that, I'm sorry, I'm stunned that just happened.
I know.
My mind is blown.
Look at
Anyway,
you. You literally stood up.
there is magic, folks. There is magic out there. You just got to look for it.
Wow.
You got to find it. You want to say bye?
Bye.
Sorry, is that too much? Do we
No,
have
let's
a
go.
lesson?
That's it. No, that's it.
I can't
It's
come
over.
up with more material.
It's
after that.
over. It's over.
I
It's
can't.
over.
I can't come up with
Oh,
anything
I
else.
got
after.
like another 10, 15 minutes. But that's fine.
I need to go buy some champ. I need to go move on.
Popping bottles.
I just changed your mind on Joe Rogan.
No,
and
you
I just
really did.
called
Oh,
1
man.
hour on
You
the top.
totally did. Like, it was like a flip. All right, time's up. I was like, oh, okay. You know, like, no rebuttal, no foul. You're right, though. You just ended it.
Hey,
Just ended it.
congratulations, Joe, though. Thank you for all the episodes over the years. Peace and love. We love you. Do well. And I'll see you next time, Matthew.
Later, taters.
Bye.